Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. We are Ascension with A Course in Miracles. This today, I believe, is our 94th or 95th episode. And I cannot believe that we're approaching 100 episodes of sharing these wonderful transmissions that are coming through me deliberately to share with humanity, to prepare us for the times that we're in. And those who do not understand what is happening are in for a very rude awakening. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Remember, A Course in Miracles is preparing our mind, training our mind to see everything as neutral. That means to not assign good, bad, right, wrong. So there's nothing wrong, there's nothing bad about having a rude awakening. It's an awakening nonetheless. However, when we understand that we are part of something bigger, way bigger than we've ever been taught, it is what we are a part of, we begin to understand how the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And in this day and age, right now, as we speak, today being March the 8th, 2023, our sweet friend here, Natalia, reminded me that it's International Women's Day. And what a wonderful thing to celebrate, all women. Every day should be International Women's Day. It should be Galactic Women's Day. It should be Galactic Beings Day all the time. If we knew who we really are, we wouldn't need to have a special day. And as a matter of fact, today, as we look into a section of the Course in Miracles, it talks about the dangers of doing special things. When we begin to categorize people, colors, genders, sexuality, religion, political affiliation, football team, and we begin to have a special one, we are feeding the ego mind. We are coming from a place that requires better, lesser, winner, loser, good, bad. And when we are categorizing things like that, we're operating in duality. Now, duality, when it's perceived from the ego's perspective, it is always, without exception, going to instill fear, because the other is going to be seen as separate and as a potential harmful being. And that's why we have special love, because if you're not going to hurt me, then you're going to help me. And then we begin to compare people. Who's safer? Are the black safer or the white safer? Are the tall safer or the short safer? Are the men safer or the women safer? Are the Chinese safer? Are they not safer? When we enter into that realm of categorizing from the ego, fear is always present. That is why if we don't train our mind to understand the difference of how we believe in fear versus love, where does the fear-based beliefs come from versus the love-based beliefs, if we don't train our mind to see, number one, that there are these two options. We can believe with the ego, and operate in fear, or we can believe with God and operate in love. If we don't understand that there are two options, two thought systems, then there is no way to know that you can really pick between the two. The rude awakening is for those who have not trained their mind and think that their belief is right. They don't see another option. They don't want to see another option. And their insistence on being right about their option holds them in an arrogance, a frequency of arrogance that actually grounds them in ignorance, because they don't know what they don't know. And here, when I use these words, arrogant, ignorant, they are meant for the pure essence of the word, not a judgmental use of the word. Ignorance means you don't know what you don't know. You're ignorant to whatever it is that you are unaware of. That's not a bad thing. If you're curious, ignorance is, you can say, yeah, I'm ignorant about that situation. Oh, I'm totally ignorant about the fact that today was International Women's Day until Sweet Sister mentioned that. I was ignorant of that. But I am curious to know, okay, so So there's International Women's Day, and is there an International Men's Day? Is there an International Kids Day? What else is there? So when you're curious, ignorance is not a big deal. It's like saying, I live here and I don't live there. I'm curious. What would living in that place be about? Arrogance, when we use it in a negative connotation, is like you think you know more than anybody else. Well, arrogance to me, when used in a neutral way, arrogance is an association with the ego to puff yourself up with ignorance, because you're ignorant. When you are arrogant, you're not open-minded. Arrogance implies I'm right, and if you're right about, and you don't know what you're, and you're right about something that is not necessarily, and it will never be all that could possibly you could be correct about, then your arrogance is arrogance and righteousness about ignorance. That's what's so amazing about wanting to be right about anything. If you're not curious, you're always going to be arrogant about and ignorant, because you have no idea what you don't know. As a matter of fact, a great example of that was today. I posted on my Facebook page, and those who've known me a long time know that I went through a transition, not only my spiritual transition, but I have transitioned in just about every area of my life. I have transitioned from my old beliefs of relationships with intimate partners. I've transitioned to a whole different way of seeing relationships. I used to see them as special. I see them as holy now. As it pertains to my well-being, I transitioned from a belief in the outer world, the medical world, being the ones who knew everything, and I followed their schedule, and I got my kids vaccinated on the schedule that the pediatrician gave me. I trusted them. I have shifted. Why? Because when I followed this, I was ignorant that there were so many other ways, holistic ways, the ways of natural immunity, the path of, I forget the word that is used for that. Dr. Zach Bush is one of the proponents of
homeopathy?
No, but that too. I used to be allopathic, and I became aware of homeopathic. So there's so many different things that are out there. But what Dr. Zach Bush teaches is about the bacteria that we have. The the allopathic medicine, the traditional medicine, like to kill the bad bacteria. And the other way, and I cannot remember the name of it, is about don't worry about killing the bad bacteria, increase the good bacteria, because the good bacteria keeps the bad bacteria in check. So when you deal with strengthening that which is already healthy, you make it stronger. That's what activates the natural immunity that takes care of the body. You don't need foreign substances unless they are allopathic, unless they are, or homeopathic, I'm sorry, that are just a small amount that is primarily activated by your consciousness. So no, that's not it, not homeostasis. But anyway, so we have, thanks for trying to help me. We have a wonderful opportunity before us to acknowledge our ignorance. The Course in Miracles wants us to acknowledge our ignorance, because when we acknowledge our ignorance, we become willing to be open-minded. We become willing to learn new things. And humanity is in the conundrum that it's in, because not only have we been fed misinformation, we have been made to think that that is the only way, the right way. So we are being kept ignorant with misinformation, but we are encouraged to be arrogant with this need to be right and to protect what we know. And inside of that ignorance and that arrogance, well, as the truth comes out and you cannot deny that it is correct, and you realize that it is opposite to what you've been believing, you are going to have a rude awakening. Course in Miracles prepares us. It puts us on a path to awakening, by giving us the opportunity to question our beliefs, to train our mind, to be open-minded, to train our mind to see that the beliefs can be categorized: fear-based belief, love-based belief. What is of the ego? What is of God? What is human? What is divine? And as we sort things out, it is not to say this is right, this is wrong. It is to see that when we align with God's way of looking at things, we experience something completely different. How we feel internally is at peace, is at ease, is joyful, it's expanded, and it wants to share. It wants to expand, to extend what you have felt that feels so good. When we agree with the beliefs of the ego, we feel unease, we feel contracted, we feel agitated, we feel anxious. Why? Because we have an innate knowingness. Some different teachers call it different things, but you can call it your internal GPS. There is a guidance system that if you are aligned with the belief system that says you have a guidance system, and that typically comes from spiritual teachings, you enter into the realm of accepting that you are hearing guidance, and the guidance comes from God or angels or whatever you might want to attribute it to. Doesn't matter. You begin to believe that you're receiving guidance. If you don't understand those kinds of principles, you can call it intuition. So somebody who maybe isn't trained in the realms of esoteric information, they call it, it's just my intuition. I grew up, I heard of mother's intuition. I heard of father's intuition. I heard of women's intuition. I heard of, just whatever. You know that you know something at a really deep level, but it wasn't necessarily what you learned from the outside. You just know it internally. So as we move down this path that we are square in the middle of, this is a decade of massive, massive changes. We are in the middle of a war between good and evil, God and ego, between love and fear, between truth and illusion, between freedom and bondage. And when you understand how we got to that place, you have a gentle awakening. Now, through the process, some things will be uncomfortable, because what you begin to discover is that your whole life has been, most of it has been a lie. And the reason it's been a lie, it's because we have been conditioned, we have been trained deliberately to be kept ignorant by those who are scared of people who know truth. So part of what is happening that we cannot avoid, it is unavoidable, is that the truth is being revealed. And the truth, there are two sides to the truth. There's the truth of who we are as divine beings created by the Creator, all equal. That is truth. And then we're going to discover the truth about the lies that we've been told. And to understand the truth about the lies, your mind has to be trained to really recognize that the human experience is totally by choice. We make that choice from a higher perspective, meaning from a soul level. We choose to incarnate. Now, most humans, I know I was one of those, have been conditioned to believe that humans, that we're it, like we're the smartest beings in the world, definitely on the planet, is what we think we are. But the smartest beings in the whole, not the world, but the universe. So we grow up with an ignorance that there is so much more beyond the human existence. Yeah, we heard about going to the moon, and we heard about going to Mars, and we hear about ETs, and we're fed information to keep us just with enough knowledge so that we're not completely ignorant, but pretty ignorant of what the truth is. And when we believe that we know everything and we only know a little bit, well, then that makes us arrogant, because then we're defending what little we know. I know that I grew up for a very long time thinking anything extraterrestrial had to be mean-spirited. It had to be, it was going to hurt us. It was going to be against humanity. I watched all those, crazy movies with scary things. When I watched the movie E.T. Phone Home, was the beginning of thinking, maybe there is benevolent beings out there, but I didn't give it a whole lot of thought because my mind was primarily filled arrogantly with information that we needed to protect ourselves from those bad beings. And we were the smartest ones. So we were going to be okay because, well, we had all the weapons and everything that we needed to do to take care of ourselves. So as we begin the journey of crossing the bridge that I talk about here all the time, it's a bridge of information. And as we move from ignorance into knowing more, at the very least, what happens when we get to the other side is we know that we don't know a whole lot, and we're comfortable with that. I know that I don't know much because I cannot possibly know all that there is. There are 8 billion people on the planet. That means I don't know 7.99999 billion of the information that people on this planet know because I only know what Laina knows. But what I do know, where peace comes from, is that I have a direct connection to the creative source. And when I tap into the creative source, I receive all the guidance that I ever need to receive. So I know that I don't know much, but I know where to go to get what I need to know when I need to know it. This is part of what the Course in Miracles has trained us into, realizing that we don't know what anything is for. So as we continue this process of getting ourselves comfortable with all of and I'm so grateful to all of you that are here. Thank you so much. I just love doing these transmissions, and I just so appreciate those who come and listen live. I know many more listen to them afterwards, but I so appreciate your presence here so that I'm not talking to a blank screen. That's never happened, but it could. So as we are willing to be humble enough to acknowledge that we don't know what we don't know, we are guided through a smoother awakening, meaning that we gather information and we work through our limitations. We work through all of the beliefs that we have encapsulated ourselves in, all these little boxes that we have created for ourselves in the big maze that we can call life. As we are moved gently through that process, we have been, I'm going to say the bulk of those who have been in that transition, we've been preparing for this decade and specifically for this year. So when you expand your mind, when you expand your awareness of what's possible, and you begin to receive guidance from all kinds of different places, you begin to tap into a much, much, much bigger picture than just this little dot we call Earth. Now, this little dot we call Earth is a very important place because on this planet, we are experiencing something that is not being experienced anywhere else in the galaxy, anywhere else in the universe. And that is divine beings, souls who incarnated, took on physical bodies. And while we are here alive, typically what happens is you have to go through the death experience and connect to your soul again, remember who you are, and then realize, that was a dream, that was an experience, a made-up experience on planet Earth. What I am is eternal. And you realize that on the other side, after the death experience or the transition, whatever you want to call it, from that place, you decide, I'm going to go back and be a human. What is happening right now, specifically at this time, is that in human form, we're remembering that we're divine. So you don't have to die to know who you are. And we're discovering, oh my goodness, I am not only a soul, but souls are aspects of God, meaning I and the Father, Mother, God are one. We are discovering that while we're alive. Individuals have done that. Specifically, Jesus did that 2,000 years ago, and others have done it before. But those are rare occurrences. Now it's happening in mass. millions. I'm going to say a billion by the time this decade is over, if not a billion, maybe 2 billion people are going to see that who we really are is the divine expressing itself as a human. The awakening process is waking up from the sleep that we have been under. Our minds have been indoctrinated into believing so little about ourselves and the world that in our ignorance, and then being arrogant about what we know, righteous about what we know, we have been in a nightmare because we're defending misinformation. We are attempting to stand for and protect the story of who we think we are, the story of what the planet is, even the story of the universe, and we don't even know the real truth. We don't even know who we are. We're defending this body. We're defending, the story of Laina and whatever history I might have had with such arrogance. It's right. I'm right. But we're defending arrogantly with ignorance. We don't know what we don't know. So this process of moving towards enlightenment is a process of little by little illuminating our mind, letting more light in, meaning just removing the walls, removing the barriers, the blocks that we have built to the truth of who we are, which when you get to the essence of who you are, we are pure love. And the way love looks, if you can call it looks, is as light. That's why we are love and light. Energy is pure light. It's just this brilliance is energy. This brilliance here is energy that has been condensed into physical form. So we all have to become familiar with the essence of what we are as love and as light, encapsulated in a physical form, and begin the process of sorting out what is the truth of my human self. I was born at a certain time, it will die at a certain time, had 3 children, married however many times, lived wherever I lived, born in whatever culture I was born in, had whatever religious affiliation I had. That's the story of Laina. But the soul that powers Laina, now that is the truth of who I am. Well, we have been conditioned to only focus on this and protect this and defend this, not this. The journey to enlightenment is to separate the two and look at them, not to judge them, but to go, if I am love and light and I have a human experience that is limited by definition, it's limited, it has to be limited, then let me not defend my limited sense of self. Let me align with my eternal, more expanded self so that I can tap into the power that I had to choose to become Laina. Because the creative power that we have emanates from our soul, not from our humanness. As a matter of fact, our humanness, when you have the death transition, ashes to ashes, the body dissolves. What's left? What's left? We have seen lots of people that are dead. I know I've been to plenty of funerals in my lifetime. I saw my mother, I saw my father. They died in front of me and right in front of my eyes. Both of them passed away. So I've seen people not only go through the death transition, but I've been to plenty of funerals with bodies in caskets. So I have yet to see a human that is dead that has soul, the spark of the soul in them. It separates. That's what death is about. The soul continues on its adventure, whatever the next one is going to be, but the body remains no different than when you take off your clothes and it falls to the ground. The clothes, you're not your clothes, even though you think, oh my God, I look so good, so hot in this outfit. Oh, look at me. And everything is about the looks. Well, you drop the outfit and you've got your naked body, you move on to the next adventure. Well, the soul moves on to the next adventure after it drops the physical vessel. So the physical vessel itself has no power. Where is the power? The power is in the soul's ability to imagine. our mind, our ability to imagine, our ability to create, that's where all the power is. But when a soul incarnates into a physical vessel, that soul's power, the mind's power, is in the vessel. And we can't separate that. So whether you are aware that you have a soul or you're not aware that you have a soul, you're using the mind, you're using the creative power. So all of us that were indoctrinated into believing that we're less than what we are, we're using the mind of the soul that is creative to believe that we're less than what we are, to believe that we're unworthy, that we're, to believe that we are not good enough, to believe that we're stupid, to believe that we know it all and be arrogant. So the very mind of the soul that creates is inside the human, unaware that it is creating with the power of creation itself, because the soul comes from God. The soul is God expressing itself. So you see, there are so many things we're ignorant about. And this journey, going through A Course in Miracles, this is why I love teaching from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles makes everything simple. At least it does to me. Now, I know many of you who've been in my classes who have studied A Course in Miracles say, hey, is this Greek? I don't understand a word in here. And many people opened up the course, and 20 years later, they couldn't read it. So it's been sitting on their bookcase. And I hear all the time people say, until I found you and you explained the course, I had no freaking idea what it was about. And it's so funny to me, because for me, when I first opened the course, it was like, oh my God, this is so simple. This is so simple. It explains everything clearly, simply, repetitively. It's so perfect. So today I want to take you through, this is a section that we looked at one paragraph. We only got to one paragraph maybe 3 weeks ago, and then we switched to the section right before it in the book. But I am in the text. So it's the first part of the book. Course in Miracles has, most of the books today have the printing have 3 books in them: the text, the workbook for students, which is the 365 lessons, and the third is a manual for teacher. So all of what you need to really understand the course is in there. So I am in chapter 16, called The Forgiveness of Illusions. Now, to understand the course is to realize that it is taking us on a journey. It is literally helping us cross the bridge. And the bridge that it is moving us through is understanding the ego mind, understanding what is human information, helping us recognize that it's all made up. And because it's made up by humans who are not aware that they are love and light, it is completely tainted with fear, because it assumes that we're separate instead of a soul that knows we're one with all that is. It assumes separation, and from separation, and of course, separation brings fear. You are always in survival mode, operating from lack. What can I get to make it through? What can I get to be happy? What can I get to be loved? What can I get from the outside? Because there's a sense of who I am is not enough. That is inherent in the human journey as an ego. So where the course is taking us is to realize what we are. We are one with the creative source. We are the mind. We share the mind of God that creates infinitely, and it creates to extend, to expand. That's why it's infinite. And because it knows it created everything and it's one with everything, unlike separation with the ego. In oneness, it loves everything, including those who believe that they're separate from the source, including those who believe that they are less or better than the source. God, source, spirit, our soul does not discriminate, because it knows itself as one with all that is. So Course in Miracles is training our mind to understand 2 thought systems and then help us walk the journey. 365 lessons are designed for us to spend a year going through every single step. And most people will not be able to complete the teachings of the course. And here's the key thing, and live it in 1 year. But you can go through all the teachings of the course in a year and have the knowledge in your head. Now, if the knowledge stays in your head and you think you know it all, then you're just feeding the ego's arrogance. So the spiritualized ego gets all arrogant when it knows truth. But until you live it and walk it and talk it, you are not living it from your heart, which means until it drops into the heart, you don't have the humbleness to really know that you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. Therefore, you stay connected to God to always receive guidance. And you don't make a decision without checking in with God. So here we go, back to this section. So this is section number 5. The title of this section 5 in chapter 16 is called The Bridge to the Real World. Now, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, we went through the first paragraph. So I'm going to read it really quickly because today we're going to go to the second paragraph. So paragraph 1, the search for the special relationship is the sign that you equate yourself with the ego and not with God. As I said earlier, specialness is about you complete me, you protect me, you keep me safe, you provide for me, you do something for me. I get something from you. That's a special relationship. For the special relationship has value only to the ego. To the ego, unless a relationship has special value, it has no meaning, for it perceives all love as special. This is why we create these songs and these movies like Jerry Maguire, You Complete Me. It's like, okay, great, wonderful. We have songs that say, ever since you left me, I can't even cross the sidewalk. I forget who sings that song. But anyways, my heart is broken. I'm devastated. You left me. You don't love me. You love somebody else. Crushes us because we believe in special love. I got something from you. And if you take it from me, now I have a hole that who's going to fill it? I got to find another special relationship to fill that hole. So we don't really know unconditional love when we're operating from the ego. We only know conditional love because there's a condition that you're going to get something for me. Now it becomes transactional. So it creates codependency. I give you, you give me, and we're all operating. Nothing compares to you exactly. That's another one. So inside of the conditional love, we are going to have special love when I get what I want, and then special hate. I'm going to hate you. I'm going to take you to the cleaners. I'm going to, run you through whatever. I'm going to hurt you because you hurt me. So it's very much about attacking, protecting, defending. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And we thought that was normal. Sentence number 4 says, yet this cannot be natural, for it is unlike the relationship of God and his son, his daughter, his children. And all relationships that are unlike this one with God must be unnatural. For God created love as he would have it be and gave it as it is, meaning that God in its eternalness created love to be shared, to be given freely, absolutely freely to all beings, expecting nothing, with humbleness, with gentleness, with honesty, with no conditions. That's how God created love. Well, on this journey that we're on, the 3-dimensional journey with a planet with physical bodies, we are playing. It's an experiment to have an ego and to see, can people who have separate bodies recognize love as it truly is and live that way in unconditional love, in collaboration? That would be heaven on earth. That would be paradise. But because we have the ego, and the ego is about protecting itself for thousands of years from wherever it started, we can call it the fall of man, which religion uses. And that's really what it is. It's a fall in consciousness, a fall from the frequency of unconditional love to the frequency of of protection, of there's not enough, of I better get my share, and you complete me, and hate and vengeance and judgments and jealousy and all those things. We descended to the lower frequencies of greed, of selfishness. It's all about me. That is called service to self. When it is all about me, that's not natural. But it is possible on this planet, this 3D world. What is happening is so many have realized this doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And it doesn't feel good to continue to operate with that kind of ignorance and feel righteous about it and be arrogant. Many people have been crossing the bridge. Why? Because we're fully supported by a benevolent universe that is saying, hey, children, it's time to grow up. So as a humanity, as a collective, we are growing up. We are maturing. And the way you mature is you learn more. You expand your awareness. You expand your mind. So we need to understand what love is all about. To understand love, we've got to go to the source. So one of the first things that all of us have to go through is question our beliefs about God. And if our beliefs about God are based on ignorance, given to us by, one book, or maybe even 2 books or 3 books, or 1 teaching or 2 teachers or 4 teachers, and it includes things that are not true, and then we think that's the right one. Oh my goodness, that this is what religion has done. I'm Catholic and the Bible is the only book, and we will not question anything about the Bible. Well, if God is infinite, how can something that is infinite fit into 1 book or into 1 organization? If it's infinite, it must be in everything. If it's infinite, it's got to be in every book. You've got to be able to find God in everything. So instead of searching for that which is common in all that is, so you can find God, we defend that which is uncommon, that's unnatural, but it's my book, and then my book and your book, then we can go to battle because, who's right? Well, the one who's right is arrogant. And what are they arrogant about? Ignorant. They're ignorance. You see how crazy this stuff has gone? To unravel the mind from all of that insanity, we have to go through a process of being open-minded. So what I was sharing is today on my Facebook page, had this little interaction. And those who've known me for a long time know that I went through a big trajectory, shifting a lot of things. And one of the things that I shifted was politically. I, long time ago, was a Republican, was conservative, voted for Ronald Reagan. Then I swung to the other side, and became a liberal. And maybe it was because I thought Bill Clinton was cute back in the day when, you look at people for their looks, and anyhow, and I became a liberal. And when I became a liberal, I began to follow a lot of liberal leanings. And eventually I came to the middle where I was more of a libertarian because I didn't really like these 2 sides. And then Bernie Sanders came along, and I thought, okay, this man is speaking from a high consciousness. But at that time, I was already aware enough, I was already on my journey to know that the high consciousness was about treating people equally. But there was low consciousness in that it called to one side had to pay for the other side to get their goods. And I always thought, if you take it from somebody, that's redistribution. That's not what God intends. If we all learn to love one another, then we willingly want to help each other. There was something off about taking it from somebody to give it to another, but there was something that made sense to me, is more of that Buddhist perspective of we are all one. We can call it spiritual perspective. It's truth, where we should help one another. So I was leaning towards Bernie Sanders, not because I was liberal then. I was more libertarian, more in the middle. I could see the fallacy of both sides because it was pitting people against each other. Instead of let's find what's good for all of us, there had to be a winner and a loser. Well, as I was training my mind, I saw there are no winners and losers. We're all equal. So let's find where we are equal. But then the whole thing with Bernie Sanders pulled me into the world of politics, but I came into the world of politics with a consciousness that I was already developing. I started my journey in around 2002. And when I was following Bernie, this was that 2016. So I was already quite a few years on my journey. So I really understood the difference between arrogance and ignorance, and I understood love and fear, and I understood truth and illusion. So I'm applying both of those ways of thinking, what the world is teaching and what I know is divinely true. And what I began to realize is there's a lot of corruption in politics. Now, I knew it was there, but I didn't study it because it wasn't calling me, it wasn't calling my attention. But now I'm so grounded in my knowingness of who I am as a divine being that I apply it to everything. And politics was happening. We were in the midst of an election. And when I began to see the shenanigans that the ego was doing inside of the world of politics, I went, holy moly. So I immediately began to use my discernment, and I voted at that time for the Green Party because I was not going to give my vote to the Republican or the Democrats, because not only did I not know enough about the Republican at the time, that was Donald Trump, I knew enough about the Democrats. I was not going to vote for that side. So I was casting more of a neutral vote. Well, I've had to do that in my life, is to go neutral about what was happening until I had enough information. I don't like to make decisions anymore in ignorance. So I realized, why is everybody judging this guy called Donald Trump? Why all of a sudden, while he is running for office, everybody is paying attention to him and, oh my God, he's amazing, blah, blah, blah. Look at, he was on a TV star. He's a billionaire. He's built this empire. He's so smart. He's so this, he's so that. And then he becomes president. Now everybody's hating on him. And I'm going, what happened here? So what I began to realize is that so many of those friends that were liberals, many of them spiritual, were listening to the liberal media, and they were judging Trump because the liberal media was against what he was standing for, because part of what he was standing for was to bring back integrity to the process, to bring back speaking the truth, to being transparent. Well, those who are operating in either liberal or spiritual or whatever, woke, whatever you want to call it, and are holding on to the information that is fed to them by a group that has an agenda, are remaining ignorant. But in thinking that that is right, of course, they were quite arrogant. So today, on my Facebook page, I have posted a couple days ago that I'm excited. I am going to vote for Trump. I voted for him in 2020. Once I understood what he was doing, I really realized he doesn't belong to either party. He's not Republican or Democrat. He's operating as a Republican because we have a two-party system. So he's working within what we already have. And remember, the world is all about limitation. So we have very limited options here. Until we have more awakenings, we're not going to get rid of the two-party system, but we can bring light to the darkness of the two-party system. So what he has done is he has been able to pull people from multiple parties. I know lots of old liberals like me who are absolutely grounded in supporting Trump, but we do not in any way, shape, or form consider ourselves Republican. We do not support the Republican Party. So anyhow, the reason I'm sharing all of this is because when you go neutral, you get to really see what's going on. You hear little noises. My puppy, she found her bone. She's chewing on it. So when you become one who is aware of what's happening, you can see God in everything. You can begin to see the ego in everything. And does Trump have ego? Yes. Is God there? Yes. If you look for it, God is there. Does the liberal side have ego? Yes. Is God there? Yes, if you look for it. But when you begin to really pull back and assess the situation, You can bring everything down to a simple process. If somebody is judging something, they are in the state of, as it talks about here, specialness. If the ego goes righteous and it thinks it knows better, it thinks it is special, it thinks it knows more, and it is going to judge and judge with arrogance because it feels entitled to judge. But if we're judging, we're always operating with ignorance, because if you knew the truth of any being, you couldn't judge. You would only observe what they have and make a discernment as to what does this make sense to you or not. So anyways, on my Facebook post, I said something that I was going to support Trump again. Even though it's not election season, I am absolutely supporting, because I see the bigger picture. I see what he is doing from a bigger perspective. That's what the people who really truly know what he's doing, he's got a lot of supporters that don't know the big picture. But those who really understand the bigger picture have widened back, have taken a step to look at how this is going to affect all of humanity. It's not just about me. It's not just about the America. It's not just about this hemisphere. It's not just about this planet. It is about the universe. When you can move that far out and see the big picture, you are standing, as it says in here, the bridge to the real world. You are seeing the potential of the real world. And when you see the potential of the real world, you're not going to get caught up in the minutia of left party, right party, liberal, Republican. You just don't get caught up in that. So this person put a comment on my post with a thumbs down. And I replied to her, because I know her, known her for decades. I said to her, your thumbs down lets me know that you don't really understand what Trump is all about. If you are interested, I'm happy to help educate you on his agenda, on his plans. So I left it at that. I mean, it's all I can say. I am not interested in telling anybody that they're wrong, that they're making a mistake. I am simply interested in standing for the truth that has set me free. When you expand your mind, you move out of a tight little box that says, I'm right, you're wrong, which gives permission to the ego to have special groups. This is the special love group, and that's a special hate group. We can hate you because of what we believe about you. But the thing is that if you're not open to questioning your beliefs, you're not going to discover that what you believe is one perspective, one angle. What about being truly humble enough to see all the other angles that are possible? Well, to cross this bridge to the real world, you've got to become multidimensional. You've got to become somebody who is not willing to settle for being right about a small amount of information. You want to see the bigger picture. That's why those who came to know God, to really understand the truth, people like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Gandhi, people like Jesus, like the Buddha, and many more, they came to stand for love in humbleness, not putting down other people. I mean, if you go back and listen to the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr., his speeches, you could tell there was a passion for all of humanity, for equality, so that people would be judged. He used the word judge by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, meaning let's not put people in little boxes and then the white side with the whites and the black side with the whites, or the women's side with the women and the men's side with the men. Let's go inside the character, the content of the character. You've got to go inside. Course in Miracles speaks of our content. Inside of us, we have two voices. What are you listening to? The content of the ego's voice or the content of God? If you listen to the content of God's voice, you are going to be loving, you're going to be humble, you're going to be gentle, you're going to be open-minded. You cannot be righteous. You cannot hold on to what you know and attack somebody else, because you would know that to attack another is to attack self. To hurt another is to hurt self, because you know that you are one. You know that our souls are all interconnected. Why? because all souls are made of energy. Energy, you can't divide it. You can't cut it. You can't separate it. Oh my goodness. When we go down this amazing rabbit hole, we have to question everything. And as it continues on here, sentence number 6 says, love has no meaning except as its creator defined it by his will. So God willed that we love one another. God willed that love would be extended. God willed that we operate as equals so we can be co-creators with one another as we are with God. So love, as God knows it, is meant to be shared. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be extended. It's meant for us to care enough about each other that we want for the other what we want for ourselves. This is why Jesus taught that. This is why Jesus says, do unto others as you like them to do unto you. Why? Because when you do to others, you're doing to you. Because we have to be the change we want to see in the world. We have to be prepared to walk upon this planet, realizing that we really are equal. We are different. We are the diversity of what we are is because God is infinite. There is no way that all that God created was going to be exactly the same. However, all that God created is equal because it is all made of energy, and energy is love and light, and it is creative, and it's activated by mind, by desire, by imagination. So we all have all of that. That's all baked into us. It's like it's baked into the cake of humanity. However, in our differences, if we apply love, if we apply do unto others as you want to do unto you, we would all get along because we wouldn't focus on what's different. We would enjoy the diversity for the co-creative aspect, because it wouldn't be fun to co-create with cooks who everybody just cooked and all you like to do is cook. But if there's nobody there that likes to clean or that likes to eat or that likes to shop, then we're not going to have a full co-creation. So when we begin to accept that everybody is different and begin to focus on the content of their character, what do you bring to the table? Oh, you're a cook, or you're an eater, or you're a cleaner, or you're a shopper. And we work together, we would see that the diversity is what makes the richness of what is possible for humanity. So we're crossing a bridge to find out that, well, we're all equal. So stop judging by the exterior. How many more teachers do we need to teach us that? And move to the place that we appreciate the differences for what they are, not to compare and contrast and have special ones that suit my needs, which is always greedy and selfish, of course. But how can this serve the greater good of all? So this is where the movement is going. Why? Because the Creator defined God by God's will for love to expand and extend itself. Then it says, it is impossible to define it otherwise and understand it. If we define love by me accepting so let's take this whole LGBTQ LMNOP category. And I do make fun of it. And the reason I make fun of it is because it's hilarious to me. It's actually, it's funny how people who have felt that they've been oppressed then create a group to make themselves special, have a special day that they can march and call them, Pride Day, and they get to be pride of their difference, then go on to judge all the other people who are different for not seeing their differences as special and consider it, we should all bow down to the LGBTQ LMNOP XYZ category. Well, why not have everybody feel pride in who they are? If we all said, let's just love everybody. Jesus told us that 2,000 years ago. And we've heard that message before that. You can go 4,000 or 5,000 years ago into the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and you go into the Hindu texts and you discover that we were created to love one another. We are all one. We are all one, diversely expressed, because God is infinite. It cannot be confined into one book, one color, one gender, one anything. God is all of it, expressing aspects of itself in such diversity. Why? Because it's more fun that way. Can you imagine if we were all light and we all, and you imagine that light is white? Just imagine that for a second. And we were all these beams of light. How would we, what fun would it be if everything is white? How would you know what would, to me, it'd be pretty boring. Now, we know what is light by contrasting it with what is dark. Here, God wants us to know that light is love and darkness is fear. And you can take it down to hate. It is a hatred of that which God has created free, that has caused for so many to misinform us about what God is in order to confine our minds in a very limited idea of God, which means a very limited idea of who we are. If we go to the next paragraph, which of course next week we'll expand on the second paragraph, but the second paragraph starts with love is freedom. To look for it by placing yourself in bondage is to separate yourself from it. For the love of God no longer seek for union and separation, nor for freedom and bondage. Let me read that again. For the love of God no longer seek for union and separation, nor for freedom and bondage. Humanity has been conditioned to believe that what you love belongs to you. That's why you got to get married. You got to create paperwork. You got to create legal documents that say you belong to me. That's bondage. That is pure bondage. We have been created to be free, to express ourselves freely. And when we begin this journey to really realize what love is all about, if you don't set all those that you claim to love free to be themselves, to come and to go whenever the time is done, that they can go whenever the time is right for them to be there with you, when it makes sense. If you don't allow every being to come and to go, you don't really love as God intended, as God willed us to love. You love with the ego, specialness. What am I getting from you? You can't leave me because then you take away what I need from you. And the transactional kind of love that is unwilling to share, that is unwilling to really, recognize that we are here to uplift and support one another. That if you have something, you give it freely. If you don't have it, just the sharing with another done in total freedom is the kind of new earth that we're going towards. So when I look at politics today, what I see is the crumbling of an ego-made system of specialness, that somehow politicians are special and everybody else is not. That those who pay the politicians, they're special too, because they get to buy special favors. That's why they call them that, right? So when you begin to understand things, anything that requires specialness for me, but not for you, that specialness is creating divisiveness. And the only way to keep people inside of that divisiveness and have it think that it's okay is to make them arrogant, meaning to make them righteous about what they're actually ignorant about. And the more that we get ourselves comfortable with the idea of questioning what we know, the more we will begin to realize that we don't know much, that we're defending very little information. And for the most part, misinformation at that. The more that we're open to questioning these things, the more that we are going to see that there is so much more that would unite us, so much more that would make this world a happier, more joyful place, that would return this to heaven on earth. Course in Miracles is wanting us to understand that. That's why it is a bridge to the real world, because as we begin to understand that the ego's love of specialness, anything that is special, this is my special bookkeeper, this is my special football team, this is my special politician, I only give money to this one, not to that one, is going to discover that in the act of specialness, you have divided yourself from being able to see a bigger picture, meaning you're operating in ignorance. You don't know the other side. How can anybody that is judging Trump really, truly call themselves in any way, shape, or form intelligent, because it's a lack of intelligence to judge somebody that you don't know anything about. And the reason I know they don't know anything about what he is about is because if you did know what he's about, everybody would be supporting him, not for specialness, but for the very purpose of the what he is attempting to bring to this planet, because he is tapped in to many that understand that we're in the middle of a spiritual war, that we're in the middle of a spiritual awakening. And if they really understood that, they couldn't stand over here casting stones, throwing pebbles at him, because as we were taught 2,000 years ago, do not point at the speck in another person's eye until you get that log out of your own eye. So anybody that you are judging, notice that all judgment comes from the ego. That means you're ignorant about something you don't know anything about. So don't stay arrogant and be righteous in your judgment. Become open-minded, humble yourself to find out more, to expand your awareness of what else is there. Because the ego uses limited information to keep humanity in bondage. And because we have been kept in kind of a nice looking bondage, because the cells that we're inside of, the slavery that we are in is mental. We don't think that we're slaves because we're not seeing bars around us. We don't see shackles to our hands. We don't have somebody beating us up and you know, like the warden at the jail. We don't see that happening physically, but a mind that is trained to judge is always going to be judging from a perspective of lack of information. Because if we knew the big picture, we could only love. There would be no room to judge. There would only be love and a desire to understand and a desire to want to see all sides. We wouldn't buy into two-party systems. We wouldn't buy into this divisiveness that we have created. We wouldn't buy into special marriages and then that generate these horrible divorces that break up families. We would recognize that love frees all beings, and we're together, we're together. You don't want to be with me anymore? Okay, well, how do we help one another? We have children together. How do we work this out? All of that is doable. I did it. I did it with my husband. When we got divorced, when Philip and I got divorced, this is the agreement that we had in our divorce papers. It's so funny. We had so many friends who went through ugly divorces and they were very contentious. And who gets what? And they spent more money on attorneys and private detectives following each other than they did on what they left for their kids or themselves and their spouses. We agreed that we would always help one another. Our attorney, we used the same attorney, thought we were crazy. He said, well, in Cobb County, the county that we lived in, you have to put, you know, who's paying the child support. You got to put that in there, and you got to put the alimony and all of that. It's part of it. You got to have a minimum. And we said, okay, write the minimum in. And we didn't care what the minimum was, because our agreement was that whoever had more would help the other. And some months it was me, some months it was him. And when one of our kids went to college, when Spencer went to college, there were a couple of years where I had more than he did, and I paid more. We didn't have to follow what somebody else decided we had to follow. And when the kids, when we were having to take how much time the kids are with the mom, with the dad, we said, well, the kids can pick. And the attorney said, you can't do that. The law says that you have to have a schedule. The kids are here this amount of time. I say, well, what's the easiest thing in the law? And they said, well, the kids go 1 week on, 1 week off. I'm like, okay, put that in the agreement. And you know what happened? We never followed that. We let the kids go whenever they wanted to go. The only stipulation that Philip and I made is that wherever the kids went, whatever home the kids wanted to be at, the dog Max went with them. That was it. Max is the one that always followed the children. That was the only rigid thing that we had in our agreement. But the rest of it was that we did what we could You know, when our daughter got married, I had more resources, so I contributed more to the wedding. And that was never anything that I held over her dad's head. Why? Because I'm doing for myself. What I did for him, I did for me. We are one energy. That level of compassion, that kindness, that generosity, I was benefiting from feeling that. And you know what? Our kids grew up never feeling used by their parents as a tug of war in a specialness to make one parent, to punish one parent with the use of the kids or the money. That's crazy. But we've been conditioned into that in the ego world. Well, the world that we're moving to, the bridge to the world of love, the world of God, the new earth, requires that you be willing to question everything that you know, because we don't know what we don't know. And we don't want to be arrogant about what little we know. So we don't want to be arrogant about how ignorant we actually are. So this is why I laugh at the people who go around in total, complete arrogance, thinking that they know this candidate, or they know this thing, or they know that medical procedure, or whatever it might be. Because as the minute somebody gets on that arrogant pedestal, I know that they don't know. But that allows me to have compassion for them, and to, like my friend on my Facebook page, to say to her, hey, by showing that you don't like him, I can tell you don't know what he's about. If you want to know more about him, let me know. I'm happy to share. I don't need to make her wrong, because she's not wrong. She's right about what she knows, because she only knows what she knows. So next week we will continue. Let me just read actually this last two sentences here to just complete this paragraph. So as you read, well, let me go back to the third sentence. For the love of God, no longer seek for union and separation, nor for freedom and bondage. As you release, you will be released. As you release others from having to be your special love or your special hate, as you let them go into freedom, you become more free. Forget this not, or love will be unable to find you and comfort you. Those of you who know my story about my divorce, then the man that I married after that one, after Philip, with Ken, releasing him was one of the most beautiful things I ever experienced. And as much as I loved him, I realized that my capacity to love became bigger, more expanded, when I was able to release him to move on his journey wherever he wanted to go, because I knew that the love that was in me extending toward him had been expanded. Unlike what the world was teaching me to close my heart because of what he did, I kept my heart open and realized, wow, there's so much more room for, I can love more people. So I don't have to have one special person to hold on to. The love that I have for humanity is equal to the love of the Father for me, and it's infinite. So with that, I open this up. If anybody got any nuggets, anything you might want to share from today's call, I would love to hear that. And next week, we'll continue with the bridge to the real world, because it's going to be perfect for this time that we're in, as more and more gets revealed to help us navigate this journey of misinformation that we have been in, that has caused us to forget what love is. Yes. Christo, you brought yourself onto the screen. Are you going to share something? Did you get a nugget, sweetie?
Yes, I was just switching on our lights again because we just finished off with our load shedding here in South Africa.
Crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're being taught the ability to adapt and find solutions and deal with what comes our way. Well, when I entered your sharing, you were talking about learning. This is I'm trying to remember. I'm paraphrasing what I think you said, was learning to about the fact that we are guided from within. And once you know that, then things become more clearer and easier. That's what it's about, is recognizing that we are part of the whole, and yet we're all part of the whole via the inner connection. And of course, it was wonderful for me to arrive at something which, of course, I love so much. And of course, the rest of what you were sharing was so awesome and apropos, with what's happening in the world today. Thank you.
Yeah, once we discover that we have been operating with limited information, that misinformation, most of it is lies. I mean, we've been taught lies about God. We've been taught lies about one another. We've been taught lies about who we are. And we've been lied to about the power of the body to heal itself. We've been lied about what love is, and told that we need legal pieces of paper, and that some judge, some man with wearing a black dress somewhere, sitting on a bench above, the people, somehow knows if your love is real or not. When to allow it and when to dissolve it. It's crazy that we have been operating like that, and we have been defending that. I know I was the queen of arrogance. Thank you so much for your share. Anybody else? Did anybody else get a nugget from today's transmission? It's just amazing when we get 2 or more of us gather. There is such love that what comes through me. This normally doesn't just come out of me at the dinner table. It just really usually happens right here. Well, if nobody has anything to share, then I thank you for being here. To see all of these transmissions, go to my YouTube, Laina Orlando. And if you enjoyed this, please share it with others. If you like it, please, do the like button so that it increases the number of people who see this on my YouTube. And if you were here live, go to the YouTube and like the episodes that you have watched, and that just helps get this to more people, because it does. The algorithms are what make the world go round right now, it seems like. Thank you so much for being here. I'm truly humbled that you would take the time to spend it here with me and receive what has been given me to share. I love you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Laina. It was wonderful as usual.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Ginger. Love your note. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy painting, Natalia.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.